Hawaii. I'm Chairman Joseph Byrd, and welcome to Quapaw, Oklahoma, home of the Quapaw Nation, the Ogakpa. The story of our people is one of resilience and determination. Please join me as we take a closer look into the story of our success through the lens of our tribe, our culture, and our people. Welcome to the Chairman's Fireside Chat. I hope you enjoy it. Away, and welcome to the Chairman's Fireside Chat. I'm your host, Chairman Joseph Byrd. With us today, we have Mary Cabalero. She is the financial controller for Downstream, and she's also been serving as the interim CFO. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show today. And really, I just wanted to have a conversation with you and talk about a few things that we've experienced here at Downstream, and then kind of where we're going, projecting into the future. But for starters, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I'm the youngest of 7 children. I'm the baby. I was a late in life afterthought, I believe. That being said, my parents were older, so they instilled the old school values. But with my mom being older, she did pass away when I was a young child. And so I moved in with one of my older sisters. And so the joke is that I raised her. That's the family joke there. She was in her 20s and I was still in single digits, but I was a little bit more mature than her, I think.
Yeah.
I married my high school sweetheart.
Nice.
Yes. I won't say how long we've been married. It's been a few years. We have 1 child, and then I have 2 great, wonderful, wonderful grandsons. They're the joy of my life.
Awesome. That's great. And so how did you come to be with us at Downstream?
I started at Downstream January of 2008. Our actual office was still over at the golf course then, when it was Loma Linda, and Downstream was being constructed. And I was hired in as a staff accountant there with the very first CFO, Ann Kennedy. And I worked alongside Jerry Montgomery and Jeannie Ann Lambert, and been here ever since.
Wow. So, you've truly been here with us since the beginning.
Yes.
Before
day one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, were you here back in July of 2008 when we had the grand opening?
Yes.
What do you remember from that experience?
I remember from that experience just the adrenaline, the thrill of everything that we had accomplished. It was so exciting. And right before opening, there was a statement made that this was the last time it was just the Downstream family that would ever be inside the building. And so that just stuck with me, because that was just like so true and humbling, I guess. And we opened the doors, and it's been great ever since.
That's wonderful. So that was in July of 2008.
Yes.
And I believe I came on board in 2009, in November of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So it had been open for just about a year, and then I came aboard as a bus marketing coordinator.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then as I was promoted to manager, I had even more interactions with you and your staff there in the accounting department.
Yes.
And everybody is really wonderful. You have an incredible personnel under you.
I take tremendous pride in my staff. We have put together a remarkable staff that any controller would be proud of.
Yeah, I echo that, and commend you for what you've been able to do, as well as the staff that's underneath you.
Thank you.
You work tirelessly.
Yes.
Around the clock, and especially during month end, it's always a process.
Yes, from one deadline to the next.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. So, okay, you mentioned that you were here pre-opening,
Yes.
and so now we're going on year 13.
Yes. Lucky 13.
Yeah. So, what are some things that you've seen currently that we're involved in, and can you talk more about that?
Right now, our numbers are phenomenal. Downstream it just blows my mind. We're off the charts. I am so excited to see what the future holds for us. You would think with COVID-19 that we would be hurting. At this point, we are setting better than we ever have. I have more money in the bank right now than we have had in years.
And can we kind of drill down into that and talk more about that? Because I know you're really the eyes and ears when it comes to the numbers here.
Yes.
And you see everything, every expense, every profit, all of it.
Oh, first quarter fiscal 2021, which was October, November, December, we had record-breaking numbers. From our revenue is up, our expenses are down. Our payroll expenses, just for those 3 months, from this quarter compared to last quarter, was $4.5 million less.
4.5 million less.
And that's just payroll.
In payroll,
yes.
You say. And so when you say we've had a profitable Q1,
yes.
Is that attributable to this expense that we no longer have for payroll?
It is attributable to that. All of our expenses are down and our revenue is up. It's bottom number. It just keeps growing.
Wow. Expenses are down, revenue is up.
Yes.
So overall,
we are setting it for the first quarter, 3 months, mind you, we were $6 million over the previous year.
And so with everything that you know with our current financing arrangement, with our creditors, with our investors, can you talk more about that relationship as to what does this profitability translate to them? How does that?
They love us,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're their favorites now.
I think that that has been something that has been interesting. Just the exercise of having to call in, give updates on our profitability, on our financial posture.
Yes.
And it's good when you have good news to tell those kind of folks.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
They like the good news.
Yeah, they do like to have good news. And from what you're telling us, they've been receiving all kinds of good news.
Exactly. Nothing negative.
Yeah. Okay. And can you talk a little bit? I know that we just wrapped up our annual financial audit.
Yes.
Can you maybe speak more to that?
Well, we finished fiscal 2020 at September 30th, and then we went through our audit process October and November. Audit was as smooth as it ever has been. The auditors are happy. The numbers weren't great for 2020 because that was COVID, but towards the end it was starting to look up. And so it showed that, we're just moving forward.
Well, so if we could talk more about, I know that we mentioned an audit that was recently conducted, and that's the annual audit that's always performed. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, we have a audit firm from Kansas City that comes down, and they are reviewing the financial side of the audit. That invoices are processed correctly and paid correctly. We have the proper authorizations to pay those invoices, and when that invoice is booked, it is hitting the financial statements in the correct place. Whether or not it's a fixed asset or it's an expense, a revenue or maybe a prepaid revenue type thing. And so that's what they're doing. There is thousands and thousands of entries that hit our financials every month. And so they are going through making sure those are hitting the right bucket per se. So it hits the right line. So whenever we report on those bottom dollars, what our EBITDA number is, or our net income number is, then it is correct. And so they go through that with a fine-tooth comb, reviewing everything. They're not reviewing that it's a legitimate expense. They're reviewing that we actually had the authorization to pay that expense.
And I think that's an important distinction there between a regular annual audit versus more of a forensic audit.
Correct.
And you kind of hit the nail on the head there. So if you could explain that one more time,
Okay.
just the distinction between the two and what they actually audit and look for.
A forensic audit is auditing whether or not that expense should have been incurred. The financial audit is auditing that expense to see if it was booked correctly, if accounting had the proper authorization to pay that expense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note because I believe we've had the same audit firm for how long now?
Over 10 years.
Okay. So if we could circle back to when we were talking about, our profitability and our performance of the downstream, and every so often we have scheduled meetings with our investors, with our bondholders, where we have to report our financial posture with them.
Yes.
I remember the first one that we sat in.
I was so nervous.
I was nervous too. I'm not gonna lie. I think I had been sworn in a week.
I believe so.
I was still coming out of my first week, and we were all in the conference room, and we had our first call with our downstream investors, and I really wasn't I didn't know what to expect.
I didn't either.
And so when we sat in there, we got to go in, and it was really just kind of giving them background information on our resume and our work experience, mixed with, some of the operational details and some of the profitability.
Exactly. And the numbers that we had to report at that time wasn't the greatest, because that's when we were coming off the shuttering of having the business closed for part of the quarter.
That's right.
Yes.
And
so we wasn't reporting good numbers for them.
So let's talk about that instance from the first time you sat in those meetings. It was obviously my first time as well.
Yes.
The first time for Secretary Treasurer Guy Barker, the first time for Vice Chairwoman Callie Bowden, first time for you.
Yes.
And then what happened after that? If you could explain with some of our par value and the notes that we hold on the percentage wise.
Well, at that time, our par value was like 80, and now it's up to 102.
So what does that mean exactly? If you could tell us that.
That means the downstream is doing financially very well. We are rock solid.
And how does that translate to the perspective of the bondholders themselves?
When it's 80, they were maybe a little bit concerned about their investment, the return on their investment. At 102, they're sitting very happy. They're very confident in their investment, and they're reaping the rewards of that investment.
Awesome. And that's directly attributable to when we came on board.
Yes.
With reopening the downstream, so I think that there were some results based off of new changes.
Yes.
Not just with leadership, but also with the operation itself.
Yes, cutting expenses. We started, due to COVID, due to new management, we started reviewing every line. Is this something that is a necessity? Do we really need all these lawyers? Do we really need all these consultants?
I think that's also an important aspect to every business operation across the country, across the world really, is with COVID-19 impacting their bottom line, they've had an opportunity to look at those expenses that may not necessarily be a necessity.
Exactly.
And so when we're running lean, like we are today with this operation, you know, there are so many expenses that formerly we had incurred.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, attorney's fees, consulting fees. It's almost like at one time we had consultants that would consult the consultants.
I agree.
And it really added up. And I think with the new leadership in place, we had the ability to cut those costs. And it's been a positive result on the bottom line.
Exactly. $6 million
Six
for
million-
for 3 months.
$6 million for 3 months. What do you
Yes.
mean?
We were $6 million over last year's bottom number for the 3 months, October, November, December.
6 million.
6 million.
That's a pretty awesome number. And a lot of times, you know, whenever auditors come, they have, I guess, notices that they'll give out, kind of like a did we pass
Yes.
kind of thing. So I guess my question to you is, how did we fare when it came to their findings? Were there any findings?
No findings whatsoever.
Okay, well that's great.
Yes, we passed with flying colors.
That's always good.
Yes.
And so, what do you see in terms of? I know that it's kind of difficult to speak because it's more of an operational question to see where we're going into the future. But maybe you could speak to that. I know that you've been in, you know, some of those conversations as to where we are now and what we would like to accomplish.
Well, we're looking at the games, okay? Let's make sure we got the profitable games on the floor, the games that people want to play. And so we're going through that with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that we've got the best gaming floor out there and that attracts the gamers, the people that want to come and play. We're remodeling the F&B, the restaurants, and so I can't wait to see the finished product on that. And we're moving forward with coffee. Each department is moving forward. Everybody has a vision, and I am so excited to see how that vision comes to play.
I'm excited as well. You know, we spoke with Stuart earlier, and just to kind of give a brief snapshot on what's happening now and some of the future projections that we're looking at. Definitely with food and beverage outlets, they've been wonderful. However, you know, in our 13th year, it's time to look at that and refocus some of those efforts.
I agree.
And you know, you do a good job, phenomenal job on the back end, making sure that we have the funds necessary to accomplish those goals.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to share about this property that, you know, maybe a lot of folks don't know, or maybe it's kind of been overlooked in the last 13 years, just as a reminder? Or
we have a lot of team members that are here from those pre-opening days, those early days, and I don't know if people realize how much pride we take into Downstream. Downstream's our Downstream family. We spend more time with our coworkers than we do sometimes with our spouse or our children, and it's such a bond. And we are so proud of the facility and what we have accomplished, and we can't wait to see what the future holds.
I also share those sentiments. You know, I see friendly faces when I pass through the halls. I'm always, you know, courteous and encouraging, and just, you know, hey, how's your day going? How you doing?
You can't pass somebody in the hall without
No,
hearing that.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. It is truly a family here.
Yes.
And I feel it, you know, walking the floor as well as back of house.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
It's a great feeling to come to work to every day.
and it makes working that much enjoyable. Like
Yes.
you said.
Yes.
When you're dreading coming to work every day, you know, that's not a good environment to be in.
No.
But you know, if you can actually spend your day doing something you enjoy and
And with
making a
people and you
difference.
enjoy, making a difference, definitely.
Yes, it feels much more rewarding, I guess.
Definitely so.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I love Downstream.
Okay.
The last 13 years have been remarkable, and I look forward to the next 13 years.
Well, I think it's important to note as well that you were very fundamental with bringing our Saracen property online.
Yes.
And I don't think that is something that's quite known to the general public. The fact that Downstream exists, they know that, and they know that there's operations on the back end that keep us all, on track and making sure we're fiscally responsible. But can you talk more about your involvement with bringing Downstream online and how you helped in that successful venture?
Well, when we brought on Saracen, it was just duplicating Downstream. We've had, at that time, 11 and a half years, 12 years experience, so we took what we knew to make Saracen better. And we work probably more hours on Saracen than we do on Downstream at this point. We put in lots of effort on Saracen and getting them up to par, building their chart of accounts, their financial statements, and just putting the policies and procedures in place for them to function and be a success. We want them to succeed.
I think that's a fair statement, and again, I think that was quite a challenge to have to do everything you just mentioned under COVID-19 conditions. So the fact that we had to shutter the doors for a couple months here at our mothership property of Downstream, all while being responsive and doing, keeping the books and keeping all the finances and the controls for a second duplicate property there in Arkansas.
Yes. While we were shut down, finance was still working. Our hours didn't get cut. We were still here every day doing due diligence.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. I think that's something that the people would like to know because it's not, really openly discussed or shared. Is that, even whenever we shuttered, like you said, we're still
here.
You were still functioning. You were still
Yes.
operating.
The bills still needed to be paid.
Exactly, the bills still needed to be paid, not just for this property, but also the Saracen property.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you
Well, thank you.
and commend you for your efforts and for your diligence here and making sure that the controls are in place and ensuring that we are doing everything fiscally responsible. And it's I know that it's not just you, it's an entire department that is able to ensure that, but it's through the leadership of you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We have a phenomenal team.
Well, thank you. And like you said, I'm looking forward to what the future holds.
Definitely so.
Well, thank you, Mary. Again, I'd love to have you back on.
Oh, definitely.
It's been a pleasure.
I agree.
And, look forward to hearing from you soon next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.